This session tells about a new phase in our freedom struggle. Here we will discuss about the civil disobedience movement undertaken by Gandhiji to fight for Purna Swaraj or complete freedom. In February 1922, Mahatma Gandhi decided to withdraw the non-cooperation movement because Gandhiji felt that the non-cooperation movement was turning violent in many places. Chauri Chaura incident is the best example for this. In his opinion, Satyagrahis are supposed to take only non-violent resistance against the oppressor and needed to be properly trained before they would be ready for mass struggle. Some of the leaders were tired of mass struggles and wanted to participate in elections to the provincial councils. They felt that it was important to oppose British policies within the councils. C.R. Das and Motilal Nehru formed the Swaraj Party to argue for council politics. They were moderates who argued for constitutional system within the framework of British dominion. But young radical leaders like Jawaharlal Nehru and Subhash Chandra Bose argued for more radical mass agitation and full freedom for Indians. In the late 1920s, Indian politics again shaped because of two factors. The first was the worldwide economic depression and the second was the falling agricultural prices because colonial India had become an exporter of agricultural goods and importer of manufactures. The Great Depression began in 1929 with a steep fall in stock values of New York Stock Exchange and continued till 1930s. International trade and prices crashed due to the Great Depression. We shall discuss about the causes and effects of the Great Depression in the next chapter in detail. Due to the depression, the peasants found it difficult to sell their harvest and pay their revenue. So they began to protest against the British Indian government. This helped Gandhiji to launch the civil disobedience movement. Against this background, the Simon Commission was constituted for India. Now we shall look at the Simon Commission. The Simon Commission was constituted by the Tory government of Britain. It was a statutory commission under Sir John Simon. The objective of this commission was to look into the functioning of the constitutional system in India and suggest some changes. But nationalists in India opposed the commission because it did not have a single Indian member in it. Therefore, when the Simon Commission arrived in India in 1928, it was greeted with the slogan, "Go back Simon." All parties including Congress protested against Simon Commission. In an effort to win over the Indian protest, the Viceroy Lord Irwin offered dominion status for India, wherein the British monarch would continue to be the head of the government. The radicals within the Congress became more assertive. They opposed the offer of dominion status. In December 1929, the Lahore hosted the Indian National Congress session under the presidency of Jawaharlal Nehru. Lahore Congress session demanded Purna Swaraj or full independence for India. They decided to celebrate January 26, 1930 as the Purna Swaraj Day or Independence Day. But very few people joined the celebration. When India became independent and Constitution of India was adopted, January 26th was considered as Republic Day in order to commemorate this Purna Swaraj Day celebration in 1930. As the Purna Swaraj Day celebration had very little people's participation, the leaders had to find a more powerful symbol to unite the people against British rule. Thus, civil disobedience movement was started. Now we shall go to the Salt March and the civil disobedience movement. On 31st January 1930, Mahatma Gandhi sent a letter stating 11 demands to Viceroy Irwin. The most stirring demand was to abolish the salt law. Salt law prohibited Indians from collecting or selling salt. Also, Indians were charged a heavy tax for salt. Gandhiji chose salt as the medium to unite the nation as it is consumed by rich and the poor. The demands needed to be fulfilled by 11th March, but Irwin was unwilling to negotiate. So Gandhiji started the civil disobedience campaign. The Salt March or the Dandi March began on 12th March 1930 with Gandhiji and 78 volunteers. They walked for 24 days from Sabarmati to the Gujarat coastal town of Dandi. On 6th April, Gandhiji reached Dandi and broke the salt law by boiling seawater and manufacturing salt. Thus it began the civil disobedience movement. This salt march developed the feeling of nationalism. People in different parts of the country broke the salt law, manufactured salt and demonstrated in front of government salt factories. Thus, Salt March was an effective symbol of resistance. It was different from non-cooperation movement because people were asked not only to refuse cooperation but also to break colonial laws. Boycott of foreign goods, non-payment of taxes and breaking forest laws were its main features. The British government tried to suppress the civil disobedience movement with a brutal repression. In April 1930, Abdul Ghaffar Khan, a devout disciple of Gandhi, was arrested. After a month, all the leaders including Gandhiji and Nehru were arrested. Violent clashes arose due to the arrest of these Congress leaders. The violent people attacked police stations, government buildings, law courts and railway stations. By witnessing the horrific situation, Lord Irwin invited Gandhiji for a peace pact that if the civil disobedience movement would be called off, then the arrested leaders would be released. This agreement is called Gandhi-Irwin Pact. Under such a situation, Mahatma Gandhi decided to call off the civil disobedience movement. He also agreed to participate in the second round table conference in London. Gandhiji returned to India after the negotiations were failed in the round table conference. He discovered that the government had begun a new cycle of repression. Series of measures had been imposed to prevent meetings and boycotts. Abdul Ghaffar Khan and Jawaharlal Nehru were in jail and the Congress had been declared illegal by the government. So Gandhiji relaunched the civil disobedience movement. Now let us see how the participants saw the movement. We shall look at the different social groups that participated in the civil disobedience movement and why did they join the movement. Rich peasant communities like Patidars of Gujarat and the Jats of Uttar Pradesh were active in the civil disobedience movement. Being producers of commercial crops, they were very hard hit by the falling prices. They expected the revenue tax to be reduced. When the British government refused to do so, they joined the movement and actively participated in the boycott programs. They were deeply disappointed when the movement was called off in 1931. When the movement was restarted in 1932, many of them refused to rejoin as the revenue rates were not reduced. The poor peasants were small tenants cultivating land rented from the landlords. As the depression continued, they found it difficult to pay their rent. So they wanted the unpaid rent to be cancelled. But the Congress was unwilling to support the no rent campaign due to the fear of upsetting the rich peasants and landlords. How did the business class relate to the civil disobedience movement? During the First World War, Indian merchants had made huge profits and become powerful. We will see it in chapter 5, but after the war, the colonial policies restricted the business activities and reduced their profits. They wanted protection against import of foreign goods. The business classes supported the civil disobedience movement when it was first launched. They gave financial assistance to it and refused to buy or sell imported goods. To organize business interests, they formed the Federation of the Indian Chamber of Commerce in 1927. They were led by prominent industrialists like G.D. Birla. After the failure of the Round Table Conference, business groups were no longer interested to rejoin the civil disobedience movement because the spread of militant activities, worries of prolonged business disruption, and growing influences of socialism among the young Congress forced them not to join the movement again. The industrial working class did not participate in the movement in large numbers because the industrialists were supporting the civil disobedience movement. The workers demanded higher wages and proper working conditions, but the Congress was reluctant to include workers' demand as part of its program of struggle because they feared that it would alienate the rich industrialists from the movement. Another important feature of the civil disobedience movement was the large-scale participation of women. They participated in protest marches, manufactured salt, and picketed foreign shops. But for a long time, Congress was reluctant to allow women to hold any position of authority within the organization. Now let us see the limits of civil disobedience. Some social groups like Dalits were not moved by the concept of Swaraj. Dalits were addressed as untouchables and not allowed to enter into temples. They were not allowed to go near the public wells, roads, and schools used by high caste Hindus. For a long, the Congress had ignored them for fear of offending the high caste Hindus. Mahatma Gandhi called them Harijans or the children of God. He arranged satyagraha to secure their entry into temples and access to public wells, roads, and schools. But Dalit leaders like B.R. Ambedkar had a different political solution. They demanded reservation of seats in educational institutions and separate electorate. Because Dalit leaders believed that political empowerment would help them to solve their problems of social disabilities. Dr. Ambedkar clashed with Gandhiji at the second Round Table Conference on these demands. Let me make it clear what is separate electorate. You have heard of reserved constituencies for SC and ST in central and state assembly elections. Candidates of general category are not eligible to contest from these constituencies. But all voters have to vote for one of the candidates from scheduled caste or scheduled tribes. Under the British rule, separate electorate meant not only the seats reserved for a specific community, but members of that specific community only allowed for voting in that constituency. For example, only Muslims could vote for Muslim candidates in the constituency reserved for Muslims. Why did political leaders differ sharply over the question of separate electorate? Gandhiji believed that the real way for empowering Harijans was not giving them separate electorate but to remove untouchability. Ultimately, Pune Pact between Gandhiji and B.R. Ambedkar gave reserved seats in provincial and central council voted by all the people. Similarly, many Muslim leaders like Muhammad Ali Jinnah wanted separate electorate for Muslims in Central Assembly. After the decline of non-cooperation Khilafat movement, a large sections of Muslims felt alienated from the Congress because by that time the Congress became more associated with Hindu religious groups like Hindu Mahasabha. So large sections of Muslims did not participate in the civil disobedience movement. Now we will look into how did the sense of one nation become a reality? The sense of collective belonging. Nationalism spreads when people discover some unity that binds them together because people belong to different communities, regions, religions, or language groups. In the previous chapter, we have already discussed how culture and language help to the growth of nationalism in countries like Italy. Similarly, in India also, history and fiction, folk songs and dances and popular symbols helped in making of nationalism because these cultural forms helped in unifying people. In first chapter, we have seen how the nations like Germany and France were represented by female figures of Germania and Marianne. With the growth of nationalism, India came to be represented with the image of Bharat Mata. The image was first created by Bankim Chandra Chatterjee. He also wrote Vande Mataram as a hymn to the motherland. Devotion to this mother figure seen as evidence of one's nationalism. During the Swadeshi movement in Bengal, a tricolor flag was designed as a symbol in unifying people. By 1921, Gandhiji had designed the Swaraj flag. It was again a tricolor flag with a spinning wheel in the center. All these icons and symbols help to instill a feeling of national pride in the people's heart. In the first half of the 20th century, various groups of Indians were brought together for the struggle of independence. The Congress, under the leadership of Mahatma Gandhi, attempted to resolve the differences, unifying people and fight for freedom from the colonial rule. That's all about nationalism. Please subscribe the channel and share the videos if you have liked it. Thank you for watching.